I think a lot of people around the globe right now are looking to these protests in Nigeria and are feeling very hopeful. And I completely agree with you that that cannot only be a one-way streak. There needs to come some international solidarity. But looking at the African region in total, looking at the African region in total, there's the Global Peace Index are saying actually in the past decade, protests are increasing with about 800%. And this is telling me something not only about Nigeria, but the whole region, that this is a region on the move. Young people are not anymore going to stay silent. People are rising up and saying they're finding support in the global movements and asking for more than what they have received so far. What kind of future do you see for Nigeria? What kind of fate do you have in the government delivering proper human rights to also young people?
That's a bit tricky. If you ask about my faith in government, is absolute zero. It depends on who is in government. I mean, from what we've seen in the last years, the pattern of leadership in Nigeria and how we leaders are elected as well. If that pattern continues, I will tell you it's an absolute hopelessness. It's not like Nigeria lacks people. We have one of the most competent population in the world. You can see them for yourself at the highest level of international space. You find Nigerians excelling in diverse ways. Very, very competent, incredibly competent. But then those competent people, they won't allow them be in government, right? So you find systematic, election of very incompetent people in government who are not supposed to have any business with governance. And that has kept this country on a low. I tell you one thing for a fact, that if Nigeria has the right person in place in leadership, you won't recognize that country in 5 years. The potentials are there. Everything is there. It's just a country waiting for that button to be pressed and to rise. Everything is there to make the country work. But if the head is not in shape, everything else wouldn't work. So I would say that I have no confidence in government to deliver anything unless a dramatic change happens and the right people are elected. A country like Nigeria requires a development mindset to be able to get it to a level where it should be very quickly. If for all these career politicians, they can't solve the problem in Nigeria. You require a development mindset, someone who is focused, who has had experience at the highest level of how to transform, this kind of ugly situation, to focus on human capital development, to focus on those human resource building that would drive the country to actually the next level of development. And when you also look at the neighboring countries in the continent, especially in West Africa, you find, yes, there are quite some protests going on, but there is an acute failure that Nigeria is responsible for in the whole of Africa and in West Africa particularly. When you look at those countries, you see that the protests are against leadership. For example, in Guinea, in Ivory Coast, in a bunch of other countries where their leaders are going for an unconstitutional third term in office. Whereas you have in Nigeria, for example, if the government of Nigeria behaved well and they were reasonable, you would have had this country, ensuring that other leaders obey their constitutional 2-term limit and leave office. They would have ensured that this happened. But because they are not behaving well, nobody listens to them. So they don't even have the moral rights to even intervene in other countries. So I would think for Nigeria's future, if we get the right leadership, fantastic future. I mean, it's for me personally, from how I view it and from the little competence I think I could probably have, I think it's an excellent country that would be. It has unbeatable potentials, no doubt. But then, who would they allow the right people to be in the position to be able to make it happen? That is the question, and it is in the hands of the voters. So now, Nigeria requires a lot of education. There's not enough critical thinking in Nigeria's populace to always make the right decision, especially politically. The part is a very ethnically divided country, also. So there's a northern part of the country and the southern part of the country. The northern part of the country will always want to vote for someone from their region, whether they're competent or not, to be in power. The same with the South as well. But the South could be more open to having another candidate who is not from their region so far they're competent enough. but then you need enough educated voters to be able to produce an educated president. So if majority of the voters are uneducated, then that's a problem. So the country needs to, even more importantly, fix the electoral system in a manner where people can have more electronic voting in a very transparent way, so you can be sure that your vote is counting, because more often than not, the votes are not counting, they are made up numbers. So, but then if you're able to get this electoral system right, get the people educated, you will have a good chance of, electing the right leadership. Once that happens, there's no problem with the country. It's fantastic people, fantastic resources. I mean, it's incredible. When I travel the country, on road, it beats. I can't swallow like what we're wasting. It beats my imagination how blessed the country is, but how wasteful its leaders have been.
And it's fascinating to also hear that kind of like untapped potential that exists in Nigeria. And I think this protest has really been able to tap into some of that. And what I hear from you is kind of a confirmation that this could be a social tipping point for Nigeria, but it is in the hands of the protesters. And
Absolutely.
when you're outside of the country, you still are supporting and coordinating with your colleagues in Nigeria, your fellow youth activists. Where do you find your own motivation, and how do you keep on motivating the people who are in Lagos and other places around Nigeria?
Well, for me personally, okay, first is that the protest is actually a tipping point for the country. I think it would drive into really political issues sooner than later. I think people are tired and they're waiting for the next election. I can tell you this. So what they need to do first is to fix the electoral system. If it allows them to be able to vote electronically and in a very fair way, you can be sure they will produce the kind of government they would like. But then is to fix who will want to fix the electoral system. The president have to sign it off as well. So if that is done, we'll be on a good place. But then for me personally, I really find it hard to talk about Nigeria on a personal level, to discuss, because it gets me really annoyed. Like there's so many obvious solutions, but why are people not doing them? And that's really I find very disturbing. It's so insane for me. It gets me really emotional at some point. But I find my motivation in the continent. I identify first as African before Nigeria, and yeah, I feel very Pan-African in my heart. So it's very easy for me to isolate Nigeria and focus more on the continental, on a continental perspective. And I feel quite good there, because when I see what we're able to do maybe in other countries or on a continental level, and I engage with my colleagues in Nigeria to see how we do it here as well, it kind of fills me with a lot more joy. In other areas that I work with other activists in the country around climate change, around journalism, media literacy, and all others. It's been quite good, but hard to motivate people, because you want to work in a country where policy works, where government are interested in policy changes and in implementing them and in obeying them. You don't want to work in a country where policies are made for people, they are not implemented. My motivation comes from everyday challenges of Africa, and of course everyday challenges of Nigeria. Why it's difficult for me to pinpoint Nigeria especially is because I have near to zero hope that the government would ever have the intentions to consistently do the right things. So it gets, but then everyday challenges of Africa is my biggest motivation to do what I do.